Our next presentation is Backend Bloopers 2, promising to answer all the unanswered questions of Backend Bloopers 1. From ADB Fulfillment, here's Ayal Latz, and from Molten Logistics Management, Tony Sziklai.
Hey, thank you, thank you. Where is that PowerPoint? Let's see. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. This is the sequel to Backend Bloopers. What is a backend blooper? So obviously the back end of a campaign is a very important part of a marketer's success. It can make and break you. And so we put together backend bloopers to just highlight some of the common mistakes that we see that jeopardize the success of a campaign. We're both fulfillment guys, so we are busy setting up new campaigns on a daily basis, and we've seen a lot of things. So this is really meant to illustrate some tips on how a marketer can go into an arrangement like this with success in mind, and success is obviously beneficial for all of us. We're your partner in all of this. So
absolutely.
So we'll start with the back end is not an afterthought. And we understand that from a marketer's perspective, you guys are thinking about your product and your creative. Those are the fun and sexy parts of the campaign, buying media, et cetera. But the back end is often an afterthought, and that can be a mistake. So to start that off, Tony?
You need to think about things that you don't normally think about when you're working with media and telemarketing partners. They're the eyeballs and the ears, but we're the touch points. And you need to think about your back-end structure and choose your partners wisely, because those partners really are your execution arm. They are the people that actually give the products through the carriers to your end customers. So if they don't execute properly, all the investments you make up front, including back-end investments like freight, can literally put you under. So choosing your partner and thinking about how you are where you want to ship from, what location, what size your box needs to be in order to keep your freight costs down. All these considerations are part of choosing a good partner. And a lot of people, they really put a heavy emphasis, and I know why, on the front end, but they don't really realize the end consumer interacts with us, the operations people, and we're the ones that ship it to them, answer their calls when they're complaining or when they want to know more information. And sometimes that is one of the most important, connection or touch points in the relationship with your consumer.
Very good. This is an important one. Leave ample time for setup. There are a lot of moving pieces. So we know this because we're involved. Most marketers don't really realize what goes on in the back end. And you just really think about how many different things really go into making a campaign. There are decisions about item codes, grouping of item codes, how they're set up. When we set up a system that manages your products, there are hundreds of triggers, decisions that have to be communicated between the fulfillment partner and the marketer. A lot of settings, a lot of check boxes, and from a marketer's perspective, it's understandable that you're thinking, okay, they're going to be shipping a box, so it's pretty easy. The day before we go live, we'll call them up and tell them what we've got, and then they'll get started. But it's a lot more complicated than that. And so the closer you get to go live date without really doing that proactively in advance with enough time, really jeopardizes the success of the campaign. And nobody wants to rush at the last minute. That's how mistakes can happen. So really go listen to your fulfillment provider and really respect the timelines that they give you. We're all pretty reasonable there, but we have your success in mind, and we need time to be able to adjust.
Well said. Okay, this is an important one. You need to designate a leader. When you engage a fulfillment company, you're not just engaging a monolithic organization like a UPS or a FedEx maybe, who they're shipping out in the world. We need to engage and integrate with you, and that starts with a account manager who understands your problems, will actually really become that connection to us and you. So they're almost like an employee of yours. And the best account managers worry about everything that you worry about. They stay up at night going, are they using the right kind of box? Are they using the right kind of carrier? Is their inventory all there, or are they missing some inserts or something? These are the kinds of account managers that can either make or break a campaign. And I've seen a lot of people worry about certain aspects of their infomercial, but completely take for granted the person who's actually managing their execution when it comes to delivering the product to the consumer. And in my experience, I've known some incredible account managers. These are people literally that will change your perception of what the back end does, because they're looking for ways for you to make money off of your shipments. They're looking for ways for you to save money, obviously, by reducing your costs. So you need to think about that. That is a leader, a campaign manager has to be brought into the picture.
Mm-hmm. Tony, do you want to introduce this category?
Yeah, communicate with your fulfillment partner. I know this sounds kind of like a high-level, wishy-washy thing, like everyone should communicate, right? But I think sometimes the perception of fulfillment is we just need to send them our orders and they will ship those orders. And I think it's a lot more complicated than that. Actually, I know it is. And so what really you need to do is get in a mindset where you are communicating constantly with your partner about when your inventory is coming in, when you're airing your infomercials, when you expect spikes, what kind of customer service rules and returns rules you expect. That communication, I wouldn't say it's an art form, but it is something that you need to practice. You need to get into this mindset that the operations partner is a critical partner, because if they're not working tightly with you, all of a sudden your returns are going up, your shipment, your freight costs are going up, and all of a sudden your campaign, which you thought was amazing, is upside down. So this is critical.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So some of the things a fulfillment partner knows and knows well are issues like freight. So there's many, many choices with carriers. Do I want to ship UPS? Do I want to ship FedEx? Okay, there's differences, and there's also within those various carriers, there's different levels of services. So there are more expensive kind of standard services, like we'll say a UPS ground, but there are additional fees associated with that, such as residential surcharges. Conversely, there are discounted methods that are maybe hybrids of a UPS that transfers to the post office for the final delivery, which would save you, almost $3 a shipment in those residential surcharges. So these are really can have a huge impact on your bottom line and the success of the campaign. But your fulfillment partner knows these things, and they know this across not just UPS, but FedEx and a myriad of other options. So, communicating on a subject like this can be, really critical to the success.
Well said. Freight. Understand the choices with carriers and time in transit, why this is important. They both go together. And Ayal said it really well. But time in transit is a critical component of this, is how fast are the carriers actually getting your packages to the consumer, not what they tell you they are. And you really need to know this, because time in transit affects things. It affects your customer service calls. It affects cancellations. It affects returns and refunds and other special credits that go out to the consumer. So you need a system, you need a fulfillment partner and a system that can track time in transit, that you can plow that data back into your analysis and go, okay, what is the optimal time in transit? So in terms of price, how much I'm paying for those shipments, as well as the other costs that can occur if you ship too late.
Mm-hmm. Returns. This is one of my personal favorites. Returns are, it happens. People want to return, especially in this industry. Return rates can be very high, and how you handle a return today is more important than ever because of social media, as an example. If a customer has a negative experience with your company, they'll be on Facebook, they'll be posting, and people see that, and that can kill you. So, you have to really think about, not making your return policy too rigid. While that may sound attractive to a marketer initially, in today's world that might not be your best choice. And then how do you make the process easier and maybe even beneficial for yourself? And I'll give you one quick example. you can offer your customer a streamlined way to return, let's say via prepaid shipping label that you email to them. And this can be after you've tried to save the sale and discourage the return. Now the customer uses a very streamlined way to return, so they're very, very happy, but you might be able to monetize that because what you're actually paying for that label is cheaper than what you might sell that label as a convenience charge to your customer. And then everybody really wins at that case. You've made the customer happy and you've gotten something out of a bad situation. And then our last category here is double check your plan and your setups. Or again, we talked about lots of moving pieces, a lot of details. This is a detailed business on the back end. So you have to really spend time working with your partner to look at what you've created and make sure that it's correct.
Oh my goodness. You know, we call this bloopers too because there are some big bloopers that can be made here. I'm not joking, people, don't get scared. But having enough inventory is critical when you start out. And there's lean manufacturing and just-in-time manufacturing, and a lot of people want to test their campaigns to make sure that they're successful before they invest a lot of money in inventory. But if you don't have the right inventory plan, and you don't know where you're shipping it from, and you don't know how you're going to deal with rushes and other things like that. In other words, I might put my rushes in one warehouse and I might do my standard delivery in another warehouse. If you don't have that plan and you run out of inventory, it can cause major problems, cancellations. Of course, we talked about refunds, returns, eventually with disenchanted consumers. So this is a blooper I see all the time. And if you do anything as you're planning your infomercial or your telemarketing or your email or web campaign, plan your inventory campaign too.
Double check your setups. Some very common mistakes are communicating with various partners in the chain, like for example, maybe you've got somebody creating your website and your web developer is using one code for an offer. But the fulfillment center has set up that code to equal multiple items. So if there's a discrepancy there where the web is maybe sending all 3 items and then the fulfillment center takes that code and explodes it into 3 items, now you've duplicated every shipment. And those are little things that can easily be overlooked and can be disastrous. So you've got to really make sure everybody's on the same page, look at all the setups. The fulfillment center is going to be responsible for everything under their umbrella, but there are external partners as well that you've hired, and so we've all got to make sure that we're looking at the same things or it can be a not so great outcome.
Okay, this is something that sounds negative. Like, I don't want to say that you can't change anything about your campaign or your integration with your fulfillment partner, because we're here to manage change. That's our job. But what I do see happening is people, they're in the middle of their campaign, they're super excited about it, but something's not working. They're getting some bad tests back, certain demographics are not responding well, so they start tweaking the back end. And they can't tweak, let's say, the creative anymore, or they can't tweak the media, so they start going crazy with changing refund rules or a variety of things on the integration side with their web partners. And this sometimes leads to absolute chaos on the operations end. Operations needs to be treated like a military campaign in some senses, and that is, you need to really organize it, you need to manage your change, and you need to really control when you impulsively say, no, we have to change everything here, and say, maybe let's ride this out, because what can happen is humans make mistakes, and the fulfillment company is at the nexus of a lot of different vendors sending files, receiving files from us, receiving, the carriers receive shipments from us, lots and lots of frenetic changes. This is a big blooper, can cause people to lose a ton of money, and they didn't even know that they were kind of responsible for it. So, a cautionary tale, even though we are here to embrace change, we also want you to manage it, control it.
Right. Well, very good. So that's basically it for Bloopers 2. You can check out Bloopers 1 on the internet, on the ERA website. I think it links to YouTube. There's more tips of the trade, etc. there as well. So hopefully you found this helpful, and we look forward to working with you.
I hope you weren't disappointed that there were no like videos of people driving forklifts into buildings and other kinds of bloopers.
That happens.
I know. I'll do some pet tricks later off on the side, but really, seriously, mistakes can cost you money. So that's what we mean by bloopers.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.